This is 5 Live Sport.
Tuffers and Vaughan's Cricket Show.
So once again, the conditions have frustrated England against Pakistan. They need 8 more wickets for victory tomorrow. And Michael Vaughan, Jimmy's one away from 600.
Yeah, one away. It's been frustrating for him with drop catches and obviously the weather. We've all got our fingers crossed that this storm that's due overnight blows away and we get some cricket tomorrow. Just in case, we just need that 1 wicket for Jimmy Anderson to get his 600.
England looking to confirm a 2-0 series win. The weather's not looking great, Philip.
No, it's pouring down at the moment and we're expecting some tomorrow morning. Should be getting clear by about 3 o'clock. We'll have to wait and see. Francis has arrived.
Coming up.
Is that what it's called?
It's called Francis.
Is
Mike.
it? Right, coming up, we're going to discuss this test. We're going to try and get Michael on a microphone that works because he sounds miles away from the one he's on. England's summer as a whole we'll discuss. The outgoing chairman of the ECB, Colin Graves, will join us. We'll also speak to the Sussex head coach, Jason Gillespie.
Tuffers and Vaughan's Cricket Show.
On 5 Live.
It's Francis, Mike.
Is that any better?
No. I mean, honestly, you sound like you're miles away. In fact, you sound a little bit, such is the nature of just going from one show to another, that we couldn't practice this before. But it sounds in some ways like you're coming through on Tuffers' mic.
Oh.
But anyhow.
Get close, Mike.
Whereas,
What about this time, chappers?
yeah,
What about
that's a
that?
bit better.
There
That's
you go.
a bit better.
There you go.
There was a click as well, which some would say might be you turning the microphone on. Had you
No,
not done
it
that?
was on. We just manoeuvred one attachment to another attachment, and there you go.
There you go. Right then, day 4 in Southampton. Pakistan 100 for 2 following on in their second innings. England need 8 more wickets tomorrow to confirm a 2-0 series win. Just again, like so many days in test matches this summer, it's been good, gritty, tense, and I love the ebb and flow of these games that we've had. Just when you think a team is down and out, they've shown that grit and determination and rescued themselves.
Yeah, I mean, you go back to yesterday morning where Asad Shafiq was out to Jimmy Anderson. Pakistan were 30 for 4, and I think we all felt that they were just going to fall in a heap. It'll be a domino effect. England will bowl them out for 150, then make them follow on. 4 or 5 down overnight, and then it'd be done today. But it's Azhar Ali, really. He's kind of led the way for Pakistan with the bat this week. He's been under so much pressure. That's why we waved to you on Zoom. You finally coming on. Hello, chaffers. He's really led the way as a captain, because apparently back home he's been getting pelters from all the media, from a lot of ex-players about his captaincy, about his position as captain, not averaging enough. Well, you know, he changed something technically with that front foot. He got himself in a position where he could access those straight balls, which he wasn't able to do in the first test match, and it was a magnificent 100. I have so much respect for opponents that come here and face the likes of Anderson and Broad with the Duke ball, and if you get runs, it's right up there with the hardest conditions to get big scores against this combination, and Wokes and Jofra Archer. So he led the way yesterday, and I think Pakistan have followed that today, and all the players like Abid Ali have dug in. He kind of hung around for hours and hours just for his 40 odd, and for them to only have lost 2 wickets today in 56 overs, it was a tremendous effort.
I think, listen, think back to Old Trafford. Should have perhaps won that test match. Played really well. Second test match, gritted out a great 250, which I think would have been a competitive score on that wicket here.
Yep.
And now doing this sort of rearguard action as well. I think they've had a wonderful test match. I think they've been a bit unlucky.
Yeah, I think the pitch has helped here, chappers. I mean, it's been so slow. Not a great deal of bounce. And I think that's why this week it's been good for England to try and work a way of getting 20 wickets on a pitch that you could argue could be quite similar to what they're going to have to cope with overseas, because the lateral movement hasn't been there. That's why Jimmy Anderson's 5 for in the first innings just proved again how special a bowler he is, because there wasn't the hoop and the swing like we saw in the second test match, and he was just relentless, and he should have had 7 or 8 if that slip. What's happening to the slip cord?
I thought it was going to explode, Mike.
Well,
I thought it was going to explode.
I'll come on to Jimmy in just a moment, but God knows when England are going to play another test, but when they go abroad again. And you talked about, just then, Michael, today being a little bit like, when you're abroad and there's not a great deal of help, this is meant to be a more varied attack now that can deliver in different conditions. So what disappoints you in that they didn't get more today?
The spinner. Unfortunately, a young off spinner, he's just making his way. And I was really disappointed today because England batted so long in the first innings. And I was delighted that they did so, because it was like you get 580 odd on the board. And it's going to be every time that Don Best gets the chance to bowl, he shouldn't be worried about runs. They've got all these runs in the tank, and you can attack and you can be quite excited as a spin bowler. You'll be able to say more, Phil. But today was disappointing from my regard watching him, because he didn't quite get the ball wide enough. He had cover point on the boundary, which is just a run-saving position. And we got to the last half an hour, and the light was coming in, and it was only the spinners that were allowed to bowl because the seamers had been taken off because it was too dark. And you're watching and come on, just surround the bat. What have you got to lose? If you get it for a few boundaries, who cares? Just be a little bit braver, be a bit riskier. And he bowled a beautiful ball to Azhar Ali. It spun out the rough, it catches him on the inside edge, it hits it pad, it would have looped to silly point, he didn't have one. Joe Root's bowling the other end, the part-time captain who bowls a bit of off-spin, he bowled a couple of leggies, and he's got a short leg, a leg slip and a slip, whereas Don Best only had a short leg. So that was disappointing that a young spinner wasn't, whether it's the captain or I'm not too sure, but I'd like to have seen a young spinner of 23 years of age just say to the skipper, come on, let's surround the bat, we've got nothing to lose, the light's coming in, let's try and just create a little bit of chaos, a bit of theatre. And he didn't do that. So that was disappointing from my regard.
Yeah, on those flat kind of pitches where the seam bowlers are struggling and it is slow and it's low, you're right, Mike. The spinner then has to get your wicket to get you a new man in, and then the seamers can go at him again because he's just coming on naught. It was the kind of pitch that when two guys get in, the seam bowlers are reasonably comfortable to play against.
Have you got new glasses on, by the way, chappers?
I've got newish glasses.
Nice.
Yeah, I know. I've had them. I've had them for thanks. I've had them for a while. It's getting late in the evening. My eyes are getting tired. Michael mentioned the bowling it wider for Don Best, and there was a great sort of clip that they showed on the telly of Joe Root and Don Best walking down, and Joe Root actually showing Best a little bit more where he wanted him to bowl, which was wider.
Yeah.
Now
should be able to do that.
But what are the risks and the rewards for going wider as a spinner? Because there are some spinners, and Strauss actually on the telly talked about Swan not really liking bowling wide because he might get more clattered for a boundary, and he didn't like that. Yeah. So the risk and the reward of doing that and the mindset.
Yeah, but it's not wide. You know what I mean? For a start off, you've got to find out the pace, you've got to find out the flight and how the wicket is reacting. So it's not bowling it 4 foot wide of off stump. No. It's about a yard outside off stump, so you can encourage the ball that goes past the edge if it doesn't turn, and then if it does turn, it gets the inside edge, hits goes back pad, and then can go to short legs, or he can get pad bat and it can go to offside. And so that's the rewards. Risk wise, when you've got 590, there is none. There's no risk. There's no risk to be had. And also, there was a wonderful passage of play, what Mike was just talking about there. There was a deep point out there. Now, I can understand that if you're sort of like you're under the pump a little bit and you've got an inexperienced spinner to encourage him to go outside off stump. But then as a spin bowler as well, you want to have 6 at a batsman, because then you can go through your kind of building of an over. You can, couple a bit quicker, couple a bit slower. Move around the crease and the release point, so you can get that pressure on the single man. What the bloke, what having deep point out on the boundary gives is that you're just rotating strike. So you're going, I'm just getting into my rhythm. I'm just sort of like getting on top of it. Oh, he's gone. And he's down the other end. And you have to build it all up again for the other bloke. And so that's what was, infuriating me. With all these runs on the board, create some pressure. And I feel for Don, because he is sort of going through this learning process out there in the middle playing for England. But then if your skipper says, I want you to bowl outside off stump, as a professional bowler, you should be able to do it.
Yeah, I mean the perfect line, chappers, and for anyone listening, you can imagine when Jos Buttler's down in his stance and he kind of just gets his gloves just in between his legs, the right kind of knee of Jos Buttler is the perfect line. It's always about a yard and a half outside of off stump.
Keeper's gloves.
Yeah, and you kind of just say as a young spin, look, just aim for Jos Buttler's right knee. That's the line. Yeah. We just need you to land it in there as many times as you possibly can. And when he's got a cover point on the boundary, he's also got an extra cover. There's no real excuse for not throwing it wide, because you've got your protection I can sometimes understand that they don't go wide when the extra cover's taken over and cover points kind of in on the one, because they are scared of getting hit for boundaries like all bowlers. That's understandable. But when you've got that protection, it didn't make sense that he didn't get enough balls out into that zone just to make the batsman uncomfortable. He probably bowled, I wouldn't even say half, maybe a quarter of his balls out there, and he beat the outside edge on a few occasions. And it was that last one, that last over, when it was so obvious that the light was coming in, and you were thinking, go on, just surround the bat. And if he'd have done that, he'd have had a wicket at silly points. So what I would say to him, just be a bit braver. Don't be worried. Don't be scared. Don't try and be safe, because in international cricket, being a finger spinner, if you're going to bowl safe, you're not going to survive. If you've got an opportunity like he had today to just be a little bit riskier, and it might have affected his figures by a few more runs, but it also might have given him 2 or 3 more wickets. And I'd rather him go for more runs and get more wickets rather than just be safe and bowl for dots.
And the other thing that he's got to work on, and the reason why you do want that fella, or he's looking to have that fella out there, or Joe Root thinks he needs it, is because he's not consistent enough on length, I'm afraid. You need to be getting, if you're an England Test spin bowler, you've got to be able to be bowling 6 on a good length, but he's just a little bit full sometimes, or just a little bit short sometimes. 2 or 3 balls in the over on that good sort of like attacking length. But
he's got something, chap.
Yeah, yes, he has. Listen, we're not having a go at him.
No, he hasn't had a great day, because I think his mindset was a bit safe. But I think he's got something. You only have to look at Nathan Lyon after 10 games. Very similar in averages. You've got to remember, out of the 10 games, Don Bess has had 2 Test matches where he ain't bowled a ball.
No.
And he's just been out in the field. So, his action's very similar, and I think England have got to work as hard as they can with him to try and make him into Nathan Lyon in 10 or 15 Test matches. If they can get to the stage where he's as good as Nathan Lyon, England would have done a tremendous job.
I might go down there and have a chat with him. Oh, not allowed.
He's upstairs.
He's in another bubble, isn't he?
But you can understand it, can't you? In a team sport that relies so much on the individual, you can understand when you're a youngish lad starting out, and everybody makes such a big deal in cricket, obviously, of stats and figures and averages and so on and so forth. That balance between what you do for the team and what you do for yourself is quite, I would imagine at the start, is quite difficult. And then that also relies on a very good spinner-captain relationship.
Yes, well, I mean, that is crucial, spinner-captain relationship for sure. But then at the end of the day, and you said it earlier, Chappers, this is the time when things go a bit flat for the seamers, the ball's a little bit, soft and what have you. This is when your spinner has to then come into his own a little bit, even if it's just to nick 1 or 2, just to free up ends so the seamers can then sort of create some pressure as well. And it just, as Mike said, it was just a little bit too safe from spin bowler and perhaps a little bit from captain.
I mean, you have to look, chappers. Phil's mentioned Francis. Francis is on his way overnight. So we're not going to miss the storm. So England it was almost like just a win-win situation there. Pakistan haven't got enough time to go past you. Probably haven't got enough time to even get near to you because of the conditions. So it was like a free hand lobbing ball, just create a bit of theatre. I remember Peter Moore's, the England coach, and he used to always say, as a spin bowler, a finger spinner in particular, you haven't got to do so, you can't hurt anyone. So your role is to try and create some theatre out there. I didn't see enough of that from Don Bess this afternoon, just trying to create, just be a little bit funky with your fields or a little bit different. I just thought it was a little bit safe, and he could have had a wicket or 2. He didn't. He'll arrive tomorrow knowing that a lot of people will be talking about him, because this England Test match team, you're looking at the jigsaw puzzles, the Josh Buttler situation, tremendous with the bat, brilliant with the gloves yesterday. He drops a goober today, but you think that kind of piece is starting to fix nicely. The top order batting with Dom Sibley, you got Zach Crawley, again, real big piece of the jigsaw. You got Ben Stokes to come back in. You've got a bowling kind of barrage of Archer, Wood, Anderson, Broad, Ollie Robinson's around, Mark Wood's there. You've got so many bowlers to choose from. I guess the final piece of the jigsaw for England to be a high class Test match team, and you mentioned Graham Swan, and that was the reason why England got to number 1 in the world back in 2010-11. It's because you need a high class spin bowler, and that's going to be the final piece of the jigsaw.
He's got a good ball in him, though. He's got a good ball in him. He gives it a fizz, and he's got great action and great energy around the place, and also, not around the place, but at the wicket, he gets it through. But everyone's been telling him this, and it starts then playing on your mind a little bit. And he knows that people are up here, and I think Warney was talking to him today and what have you. But then at the end of the day, you should be bowling that line, you should be able to be getting 6 there or
Would
thereabouts.
you want people? Would you want
inconsistent.
people talking to you during a test? Would you, or would you just get? Do you know?
I'd want my skipper.
Or is it,
My skipper and my keeper. My skipper and my keeper.
and
Simple as that.
no other interference during
No,
the game.
don't
Leave
worry
me
about-
alone. I'll talk.
Yeah,
I'll
to your
talk.
wife.
Yeah,
Speak
well,
to your
I might
wife.
speak to her,
yeah.
I'll phone Dawney, perhaps.
But actually, as a captain, would you want lots of people talking to your young spin?
I won't mind as
Okay.
long as I'd speak to him and say, look, are you happy doing what you're doing? Because you got to remember he spoke to Warney because look, Shane Warne's a legend of the game, and if you were going to speak to any spin bowler, you'd want to speak to Shane Warne, and that was over an interview that he did for Sky in the Zone, and it was great because all these kind of interviews that you're seeing on a morning when the weather has been playing a part. I think it's been really good for the players. Mark Wood did a brilliant one. I think it was like it was honestly anyone that hasn't seen it, just get on there and see Mark Wood talk about fast bowling drills, just helping out young players. It was absolutely magnificent. And Don Best this morning, he was almost asking Warney questions, and he was going to be the one that was receiving the questions. I think that's great, and I like him a lot. I like Don Best a lot. I like his character. I like his energy. I like him with the bat in hand. I love him in the field. He's down and dirty, grubby. His whites are always absolutely filthy because he dives all over the place. But I want to see him be a bit braver in terms of circumstance that we saw this afternoon. I just loved him to just go, you know what, I'm going to lob it out there, take extra cover out. And if they want to drive me through extra cover, good luck, because they might hit me for a couple. But you know what, I might just get that one that just grips, goes through the gate, and there you go. You've got a test match wicket.
Bit of consistency you need, that's all.
Let me move it on. With Francis coming in, who knows what tomorrow will bring.
Hey, Aggers is a chappers next door. You might hear a bit of the ukulele in a minute. We've got Henry Moran with a guitar behind us, and we've got Agnew to our right on his balcony with his ukulele. So if you hear any music,
then that's where it's coming from.
We do know what Francis is bringing, chappers. Rain.
And therefore, I don't know where Jimmy is in relation to where you are at the moment. Hopefully, not within earshot of Aggers' ukulele. Do you think he'll go to bed tonight thinking he might be stuck on 599 until who knows when?
Chance. He had it yesterday, to be fair, and we mentioned it earlier. Well, and today, Josh Butler dropped an absolute sitter. 3 or 4 dropped, and his mate dropped an absolute sitter at mid-on as well. It's funny, isn't it, that when you're in sort of like touching distance of a landmark, it never particularly comes quickly to you, does it? You know what I mean? Someone up there just goes, well, I've
got a quiz for you too.
We're going to do very well, but you're not quite getting it.
So Jimmy Anderson, when he gets his wicket, he's going to become the first ever seam bowler to get 600. So he's going to be fourth in the list behind Cumblay, Warne and Muralitharan. How many men do you think have bowled in Test match cricket? Just to give you an indication of how special this is that Jimmy Anderson is producing.
How many men? How many men?
Men's Test match cricket, how many do you think have bowled an over in Test match cricket?
Right, okay, well, I was number 600 and something on my top, and there's been another 100, and that's about 700.
What do you mean you were 600? I was 600, so how could you have been 600?
Forgot my number. Well, all right, let's say 560 or something. So there's about 700 English. What are you talking about? All countries?
Yeah, all countries.
Right, well, 6 times 7, 4,200.
Okay, chappers?
Well, no, because that's... Hang on a minute. I would go...
Can you hear?
No,
can you hear Aggers?
No. There's no. Yeah, I'm gonna go. So let's say 9 or 10. I'm gonna go 5,500.
5,500. 2,223 bowlers have bowled in Test match cricket.
That's a lot.
So when you start thinking that Jimmy Anderson is going to be fourth in the list and the only seamer ever to get 600, it's absolutely astonishing. We had him on the telly getting his first wicket back in 2003. He got Mark Vermeulen out for Zimbabwe with an absolute peach down the slope at Lords. Thinking back 17 years, I was playing in that Test match. We always knew he was good and he was special, but I'd be absolutely lying if I was telling you now that we always knew he was going to get to this kind of achievement. It's unbelievable.
Even with all his experience and all those poles behind him, he will still be lying there tonight just going, Josh, why didn't you catch that one?
Yeah, that was a goober.
Yeah,
just to get it done.
I agree. I agree. But actually, more importantly, the 3 last night, which I know there was lots of joking about it, and obviously Jimmy getting more frustrated, and I think that's because a lot of us know Jimmy fairly well and know he can be grumpy and this, that, and the other, and the 3 of them are dropped. But actually, for his own individual accolade, but also from the nature of the match, because England could have got Pakistan back in last night, and that 20 minutes might have made a big difference.
Yeah.
So for all the laughing and joking about the 3 drops last night, they could be really.
The problem, that jigsaw puzzle I mentioned, one of the major pieces, obviously spin, and another massive major piece is catching. Yeah. This England Test match team dropped far too many balls. Yeah. Far too many balls in that cordon.
On the drop count, I think we're bottom of the league also.
Well, they are. And look, there's 1 or 2 that are difficult, but let's be honest. Stuart Broad at mid-on, that's as easy as they come. Zach Crawley at 4 slip, that's as easy as they come. The one at Rory Burns at 2nd slip, it went quite sharp and quite an awkward height, but you expect to catch that. Butler's drop this morning, that is just concentration. It can only be concentration because it was so easy.
It's getting to the point now as well, as you say, no one was laughing and joking on the field. The guys who were dropping them could not, they daren't look at him. They couldn't look at him like that. And then I think what happens sometimes is that you're so desperate for your mate to do well that you start almost sort of thinking, oh, crikey, I hope it don't come to me. You know what I mean? Because I'm going to be the one who's not going to do it. So I think that almost then sort of put pressure on his mates because they just wanted to make sure they caught it. So a nice LBW tomorrow about 3:30 will sort him down at the ground.
Yeah, I mean you could tell how uncomfortable they were in that nobody even celebrated the Broad run out, did they? I mean, and actually nobody really knew where to go or where to look.
That sums up Stuart Broad's summer as well, that he can drop a catch and kind of fling a ball in anger and it runs somebody out.
It's in middle stump, not middle stump out the ground.
I don't even think he was aiming for the run out, but he got one.
I mean, I know, there might not be play tomorrow, and as I keep saying, nobody knows where England's next test will be, but he's got enough to keep going for quite a while, surely. Yeah. I know there's huge debate about his future, but in many ways, should there even be a debate about his future?
No, I don't think so. I mean, one of the main reasons why he's got 600 Test wickets, of course, is because of his body and his fitness and the way he looks after himself. You just don't get to that landmark without, being in top nick. So in regards to that, he'll still be around for a good time.
Yeah, he will, and he'll play on. And do you know what? There's a little bit of me thinking, wait a minute, if he doesn't get it tomorrow, and the winter is in Sri Lanka and India, and he may not play there, we don't know. I would personally play him with that wobble sim, but you never know. Wouldn't it be better for Jimmy to get his wicket in front of a full house next summer?
Wow.
That's me looking at it purely of someone that, look, he wants to get it tomorrow, don't worry about that, but it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if he got it in front of a full house next summer, but I'm sure he'll get it tomorrow. The reason why there's this
big tour him, would you, by the way? You would tour him in the winter.
Yeah. Anderson and Broad tour, they just don't play together, when you're on those flat wickets overseas. And it's all about the Ashes in a year and a half's time. That's why the talk of the Anderson-Broad combination is becoming a fruitful one, because there are some that don't think they should play at all. There are some that just think one of them should play every week, and they think by playing them both together in English conditions, are you giving the team the right chance to build for that Ashes in a year and a half time? I completely understand where England have gone this summer. They started the summer with Jofra and Mark Wood. Stuart missed out, and then they've gone back to the seniority and experience to win some games and make sure they play good, consistent Test match cricket. The reason why it's a debate about Australia is the last 2 times England have been to Australia, they've lost 4-0, 5-0, and that's been with Anderson and Broad in the team. So they do realise that they're trying to look at combinations and particular bowling options for Australia. At Brisbane, you'd have a different combination to what you'd get in a day-nighter in Adelaide, and then you'd have a different combination to what you need in Perth, fast bouncy pitch. Again, a different combination to what you need in Melbourne. At this stage, with the way that they're bowling and the way that they're moving and operating in the team, they both go, but they both don't play for me in overseas conditions. But you use them at the right time. So Jimmy Anderson in Adelaide with the pink ball,
lovely,
first on the team sheet. Stuart Broad potentially in Brisbane, first on the team sheet. You go to Perth and then you probably need Wood and Archer with the pace. So I think England are trying to prepare for all situations of different combinations for the different pitches that they're going to play in around the world.
It was a shame that old Francis rolled in this evening, because when he was on 599, I was on.
I don't think he's come yet, Francis. That wasn't Francis tonight.
Well, we're in a bit of trouble then.
That was not Francis. That was his brother.
Anyway,
there's Francis coming here on the radar.
Wow, yeah, there's on the radar. Yeah, that looks naughty.
There you go. Can you see Francis there?
Well, yeah. I mean, I can just see a lot of rain on the basically on the map that you've shown.
But it was great because I was on the radio and it was just thrilling. You know what I mean?
Yes, it was.
I was on the edge of my seat, you know. And usually we're having a nice little chat and what have you like that. It was just. And in comes Anderson, you know what I mean? And it was just about the wicket. It was wonderful. So hopefully we're going to have a couple of hours of that tomorrow.
Are they nearly there? We're going to talk to Jason Gillespie and Colin Graves after 9 o'clock on Tuffers and Vaughan. Are they talk about this balance of making sure everybody has the experience when they're needed, particularly in Australia? Do you think they're nearly there with all the other bowlers aside from Anderson and Broad at the level experience-wise to be okay down under? So Wood, Archer, Wokes, Sam Curran, whoever else may be in there.
No, I think they'd like a few more tests for Jofra, a few more tests for Mark Wood. Chris Wokes, his record here in England is exceptional. His record overseas isn't that good, so they'll want, probably Chris to kind of develop a skill or two that could be quite competitive with the Kookaburra ball or with the SG ball in India. One of the keys to being successful in Australia is batting. Making sure that your batting unit can play well against that bouncing ball, the pace, getting big scores. So when you get the opportunity to get a big score on a flat wicket, i.e. in Brisbane, day one, you win the toss, you bat. There's big scores available in Australia because the Kookaburra ball does very little, apart from the first 15, 20 balls. And can you get 450, 500? That was a problem for the last two tours. They've just not got big enough scores. Whereas where I was really pleased with the team this week is that in that first innings, they got a big score. Joss Butler played like boycott for a while. It was great because he just played the situation as it needs to be played in Test match cricket. And in Zach Crawley, he just looks a ready-made player for all conditions. He made batting, and I think, so as we said on air, it was the best first Test century I've ever seen because generally when someone goes to get the first Test century, they're really nervy and there's edges and drop catches and an LBW appeal or two. It was pure. Yeah. He made it look so easy. He didn't. I'm sure he was nervous, but he didn't look that nervous. And some of his cricket strokes, you kind of look at and go, oh, they're going to be nice in Australia. They're going to be nice in India against the spin. So it's that batting that I think is going to be very important for England. If they go to Australia and get 300, they're not going to win. If they go to Australia with a batting unit that gets 500, as you can hear Aggers again with his ukulele, you've got a chance with any bowling attack of putting the opponents under pressure with 500 on the board.
And also sorry, just one other thing about about Crawley as well was when he came out the day after. He took about 40 balls to get off the mark, and I just thought that's someone who likes batting, is greedy, and then as Mike said, can read the situation, get yourself back in, and he did it beautifully.
We need to talk more about Crawley. We need to talk more about Joss Butler as well. So we will do that in the next hour of Tuffers and Vaughan. We'll leave Aggers to play his ukulele in the background. Colin Graves will join us, outgoing chairman of the ECB. Jason Gillespie will join us, outgoing head coach of Sussex. Your thoughts, as ever, are most welcome. 85058, or you can tweet us at 5LiveSport.
Tuffers and Vaughan's Cricket Show
on 5 Live.
Tuffers and Vaughan on 5 Live Sport. If you missed the first half hour, you can listen to everything again via the BBC Sounds app, and there'll be a podcast as well a little bit later on. Let's just touch on the batting then. Michael, we'll do Zach Crawley first, and then we'll do Joss Butler. You've already touched on the stuff that impressed you with Crawley. And Tuffers as well, on the fact that even when he came back in on the second day, he played himself back in, didn't score for 40 balls before he got going again.
Yeah, clarity, confidence in your own game, in your own mind, confidence in your technique. And that's exactly what Zach Crawley had all week. He just had a simplicity about his game, very still at the crease. He has a little trigger with that front foot. He kind of opens it up, but he doesn't have the back and across movement. He's a tall chap, big wide stance, puts his bat in between his legs, just stares at the ball, and he's got the game to be able to play. And I look at it generally as a captain that, the way that he played, I was watching it. Well, how do you keep him quiet? Very, very difficult, because he's got the drive down the ground, so you need your mid on and mid off. He's then got the kind of punches through extra cover off the back foot, so you need an extra cover or a cover point all the time. He then plays defensive strokes with nice soft hands and lets the ball run off his bat, so you need the gully position covered for that kind of defensive stroke. You drop it short, he's got the pull shot, he's got balance to play on the onside, and against spin he's very active with sweeps, reverse sweep, uses his feet. So I think it's very, very difficult for a captain to keep a play like that quiet. And, you know, he'll have difficult times, as all young players will do, but I think we saw in a player there, we've had players, you go back Adam Lyth, Sam Robson, Nick Compton, who came to the side, got hundreds quite early, and pressure builds because everyone expects you to do it on a regular basis. But I don't know, that with this kid, he just looks different. He looks mature. You know, he just looks like he's been around, for quite a long period of time. He's the chairman of the card school in amongst those senior players. That tells you that he's quite a confident young chap.
Well, he looks like he's enjoying himself as well, Michael.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, carry on, Mike. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think England have found a player, no question, because of. You know, you generally look at many things when a player comes into Test match cricket. Do you look right? Have you got the right body language? Have you got presence about you? Well, he's got all that. Does he play quick bowling well? Yes. Has he got the short ball covered? Yes, he's got that. And does he play spin nicely? Yes, he's got that. So you're looking at a player that should be able to cope with all conditions around the world. I guess the one question is always about a young player in an Ashes series when the ball's bouncing around and you're facing the likes of Cummins, Hazelwood and Coast Stark. Will you be able to cope with that big environment? By talking to a lot of the players and talking to a lot of people that know him, I don't think he's going to be bothered by that. So I think England have got a real find.
Yeah, well, I think Mike's pretty much summed it up. But one other thing to add to that, and I know it might sound a bit weird, is that he looks to hit the ball for four. You know what I mean? It stays hit. He's one of those guys that, you know, as you say, he's a big, tall, strong lad. And, you know, those clips that he was hitting off his legs or those back foot punches, they're not going for ones and twos. They are screaming to the boundary. So very, very positive in his shots, but also in the sort of the way he looks to go about his business. He's looking to dominate, not just looking to hang around.
I realise conditions dictate any selection. Injuries will play a part and so on and so forth. But when Stokes is back, he just slots back in at 5, Pope to 6, and then Butler to 7. And the point with that is Butler looks more comfortable at 6.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many options for this England Test match team, chappers. I mean, it depends what they want to do. If they want to build for, you know, winning in Australia, you keep a group together. If you're winning about, you know, the here and now. So, for instance, you could go to the subcontinent. Keaton Jennings has got a great record in the subcontinent. Could open the batting. You could put Zach Crawley to open the batting, and that means Sibley and Burns may not play in the subcontinent against spin. And then Joe Root would bat at 3, Ben Stokes, Ollie Pope, Butler at 6, and you might bring in Ben Foakes as keeper in the subcontinent because he's brilliant up to the stumps. I personally wouldn't go with that. I think they should stay more consistent and try and build a team that can play in all conditions around the world. If they want to be the best team in the world, you know, I think it helps that you play in all conditions and you grow as a unit, but plenty of headaches. I think this Test match team, when you think a year or so ago, it didn't look quite right. They played such a risky brand with the bat that allowed the opposition into the game far too soon. Since Chris Silverwood has taken over, there's been more of a focus. They're developing this Test match way, which is the right way. And now there's headaches in the Test match arena for the selectors, which, you know, a year or so ago, I don't think they did have headache. I think they were just kind of picking players. They didn't have a bigger group. And if you think, you know, Wood, Archer's only just come back in this week, Sam Curran's not in the side, Jack Leach hasn't bowled a ball all summer. No. And then you've got Ben Stokes to come back into this group. You've got, you know, young James Bracey around the team. You've got Ollie Robinson coming into the group as a younger player. I think the Test match team is now developing a squad mentality, and that's what they're going to have to require. Yeah,
and that's one thing. I know with, you know, these bio bubbles have been a strain, and I absolutely take my hat off to everyone who's been involved in this, and then especially the players. I mean, been magnificent, and everyone,
especially the opposition players. Because to be in a bio bubble in a different country is not, I would imagine, is even harder.
Yes, I totally agree. So hats off to everyone involved in that. But in a funny then sort of way, it might have just done something to this England side. I think it sort of helped, you know, the selectors and sort of like, you know, just piece a few things together by having this group together, you know, an extended group. I think if anything, it's sort of like just showing a few the way a little bit instead of just sort of like picking the names out of the hat.
I'll sway this team are going on a nice journey, but we've also got to be realistic that they're going to have big challenges away from home.
Yeah.
They will have challenges. When you go to India, you need a high-class spin bowler.
Yeah, you do.
When you go to Australia, you've got to be able to bat 130 overs.
Get a deal back.
Get a deal. Well, I think he's got to commit to 4-day cricket to Yorkshire first before he can play Test match cricket.
Yeah.
You go to Australia, you've got to be able to bat 130 overs against the likes of Cummins, Stark, and Hazelwood in that first innings, and then you've got to find a way of getting 20 wickets with the Kookaburra balls. So really good signs. Delighted with the way that the summer has gone for the team, but I do think there's still the odd question mark that will need answering in the winter.
The risk of annoying a lot of ukulele players,
it's terrible.
It's not the greatest instrument to be serenaded by in the background, is it? Really?
Yeah, because what I'll say to you, after 9:30, we're going to speak to the outgoing chairman, Colin Graves, very shortly, but after 9:30, we're going to have someone on the guitar that will produce some magic in this room.
Yeah. Okay.
A lot better. Agnew's looking through the windows if he wants some compliments. Absolute garbage.
Yeah.
Get off.
He's a long way from those compliments at the moment. Let's talk then now. We're going to talk to Jason Gillespie a little bit later on, outgoing Sussex head coach, but let's talk now, as Michael says, to the ECB's outgoing chairman, Colin Graves. Evening, Colin.
Good evening.
With the fifth day of the third test in the second series of the summer left to play, you must be relieved that we've got some cricket over the last month or whatever it's been.
Yeah, it's been challenging times, to be honest. When we looked at April, we were staring down the barrel of no cricket at all, and we started working with the government and putting our heads together of what we could do and what we could make something work, and you've seen what we've come up with, and there's been a hell of a lot of work put into that by our guys, especially Steve Elworthy, who's driven that and managed it, that for us, and it's been fantastic.
And you would, just as myself, Tuffers and Michael were talking then, for all the effort that everybody here has put on, an incredible amount of gratitude has to go to the cricket boards of West Indies and Pakistan and their players. And you would hope, even though you will have gone by then, but you would hope that whatever the ECB could do to help them going forward could be reciprocated. We're entirely grateful for all those teams you mentioned and Australia who's coming. I think they've arrived today. But basically, yes, without them we couldn't have done it. And their governments for letting them come. And at the end of the day, I think we've got a tour plan for Pakistan in 2022, I think it is. And we will certainly do everything we can to help all those teams who's helped us tremendously.
Colin Vaughan here. Does the handout in terms of finances have to be spread more widely at the international level?
They do, Vaughan, to be honest. It's one problem that ICC has got going forward, that the revenue at ICC is certainly going to be affected as well around the world. And therefore, I believe that the handouts, the way they are distributed at the present time, needs looking at, because there's certainly 2 or 3 countries who are very close to the wind and struggling, and we should make sure that nobody goes to the wall. International cricket doesn't want that. We certainly don't want that, and whatever we have to do, we need to make sure that ICC looks at that going forward.
Colin, Tuffers here. Did you enjoy your time as the boss?
I enjoyed it, Tuffers. It's been a fantastic privilege and an honour to do the job. Like everything else, you have ups and downs, and there was 1 or 2 days that, I thought to myself, what the hell am I doing here and doing this for? Especially when I didn't get paid for it, which was, my choice anyway. But, it's been great, and I've had some fantastic moments and some fantastic experience in working with a lot of tremendous people and broadcasters and everybody. It's been superb.
Given your experience in business and given your experience with Yorkshire, was it harder than you expected it to be?
It was harder purely and simply on the basis of getting the stakeholders together to go in the right direction for the good of the game. We achieved that. We had to change the constitution, both for getting an independent board and for getting a new tournament up and running. And when we took that to the stakeholders, the first vote went through 41-0 and the second vote went through 38-3. So there was a lot of work put in that to make sure that we consulted with the stakeholders. They knew exactly what we were doing and why we were doing it. And to get those votes through, a lot of people forget those numbers because it was pretty unanimous that all the changes I've made in the last 5 years has been supported by the stakeholders.
Colin, you mentioned that you've had some great times, but also some kind of low moments. Which were the low moments?
I think the low moments, to be honest, Vaughan, was when you had one or two people sniping in the background, when we had a problem with a couple of directors who resigned off the board, which, to be honest, that was unexpected. And it caused us quite a lot of problems we could have done without, but we came through them because at the end of the day we had nothing to hide. We'd done nothing wrong, and I think another low moment was when we had all the queries and the questions about Glamorgan and the payment we made them for relinquishing Test match status. The only thing I will say on that is all you need to look at is that both Durham and Glamorgan now are they're in very strong financial positions compared with what they were 5 years ago when I took over, and the game's in a much healthier position.
And the high moments?
High moments, without a shadow of doubt. Vaughan was winning both the men's and the women's World Cup.
Oh, yeah.
And people forget that we lost in the World Cup T20 final. So I've had some fantastic World Cup memories and World Cup moments. And again, I chaired the World Cup board. When we held it last year, that was a fantastic 3.5 years of chairing that board and pulling the World Cup together with all the action that went behind it. So I've had a hell of a lot more good moments than bad moments.
You talk about the England women in the World Cup as a high point. This summer will be a big low point for the women's game, won't it? If they don't get any cricket, and that has to be. Do you not think that has to be a priority to try and get them some international cricket this summer?
Yeah, and we're working on that. Actually, we're talking again to the West Indies. The West Indies are looking at coming over here, and they're talking through their board to try and get the West Indian women to come over there. So, yes, it'd be disappointing. I wouldn't classify it as a low point, but it's disappointing that we had South Africa and India lined up to come. Unfortunately, through COVID-19 in their countries, that wasn't possible. So if we can get the West Indies women to come over, that will drag a bit back.
If I move it on to the county game and the health of the county game, how worried are you about the survival of some first-class counties?
I'm not worried. When you look at where we are now, in the financial position we are. When I took over, we were staring down the barrel of finances going forward. We got the new broadcasting deal, as you know, and pre-COVID-19, the county stakeholders were going to get a 75% increase in funds pre-COVID-19. So that was looking good, and we had investment to go right across the game in recreational cricket, in women's cricket, in schools cricket, pathway, talent way, everything. That money will still be there, but reduced when we finalise what the loss is going to be at the end of this cricket season. We won't know the actual figure until the season's finished and what we've achieved. So we are still in a healthier position, a far healthier position than what we were in 2019 under the old broadcasting deal. But it's disappointing of where we could have been if COVID-19 hadn't hit. Regarding the counties, I believe there is a role for 18 counties, but I think those roles need looking at of what the structure of the county game looks like going forward. And one thing I've said to all the chairmen, my last meeting I had with them 10 days ago, was you need to sit down together with the ECB and be honest, be open, and be brave in some areas, and just look at what you can do with the game and what the structure of the game could look like going forward.
Why have they needed you in your last meeting to tell them that?
Why did they need me in their last meeting to tell them that? Because basically...
Well, could you have said that to them 2 years ago?
I said that to them 5 years ago when I took over, because basically, the game, cricket, has always had an issue with sustainability of the game. Cricket still isn't rich with money. And it never has been, and it never will be, basically. It's not like football, far from it. 80-odd% of our revenue comes from a broadcasting deal. So from that point of view, it's fairly substantial, and we've got to make sure that broadcasting deal is right. But that's what you rely on.
Colin, the 100 is a topic that gets thrown around, and there's obviously support for it. There is a lot of anger about it, a lot of people not happy about the 100. Do you accept that it is a risk putting the 100 on?
No, I don't see it as a risk at all, Vaughan, because purely and simply on the basis we've got a certain amount of money in from the broadcasters for the 100. That money is on the table and banked from both Sky and BBC together. It's brought BBC to the table. They love the 100, they love the concept of it, and it's going to be shown live when we play it on BBC as well as Sky. So it's brought BBC Terrestrial back onto the table, which we never had before. We've got a guaranteed income for the tournament. We've got 2 big sponsors now for the tournament. So the only risk we have got going forward now is selling tickets. And virtually the ticket income as part of the P&L only amounts to somewhere in the region of about 14%. So that's the only risk, is if we can't sell tickets. But if we can't sell tickets, we've already started looking at how we make that an entertainment product for television and for digital, because basically it is still a great product. And the idea was to attract new people to come and watch cricket, families, women, children, etc. And I believe it will work fantastically well, even if we don't have crowds next year. Far better with crowds, we all know that. But I believe it's a great concept, and I believe it's a big asset that the ECB will own going forward, both as an asset and an income generator.
What do you want your sort of legacy to be, Colin? Is that a big part of it, the 100?
That's other people to judge, Tuffers, to be honest, what my legacy is. Certainly from my point of view, I've achieved a hell of a lot more than what I thought I would do when I took over 5 years ago. If somebody had told me I was going to win 2 World Cups, I would have taken that, both hands. The 100, yes. I've great faith in the 100. I've great faith in the people who's running the 100 and will make that 100 work. We've got a great 100 board. New independent people who have been working on that for 2.5 years, and I believe it will be superb. So if that's part of my legacy, then great.
Cole, what's the major threat to cricket?
What's the major threat to cricket? That's a good question, that, Vaughan. I think the main thing that we've got to ensure going forward is that grassroots cricket, recreational cricket, all-stars, all that kind of thing is kept being invested in, because that is the future of cricket, without a shadow of a doubt. Cricket's got to keep up, again, in the modern age and the way that people watch sport, and that's where digital's important. So all those kind of things, cricket has got to... Now we're in a good place, we need to keep ahead of the game. What we can't do is just relax, take it easy and say, fine, we're in a great place and we can just stay as we are without doing much at all. We can't. Cricket has got to continue looking forward and don't look too much back.
So on that, and just going back to the county structure, there's a report in the Times this morning that I think 14 of the 18 counties favour this current format for the Bob Willis Trophy that takes away 2 divisions, it takes away relegation. And actually, when you look at the standings in the groups, has actually given so-called traditional second division counties a bit of a boost, and they're actually showing what they can do. Do you think this format could replace the county championship going forward?
I think, to be honest, Mark, that the counties need to talk openly about what we can do going forward with the county game. What can it look like? And at the end of the day, the people who will decide it is the counties, because the people who have the vote on any restructuring of the county game is the counties. It is not driven by the ECB. The ECB will put suggestions on the table and they'll work with the counties. But the people who will decide what the game looks like is the counties. They have the vote on the structure of the game.
How hard is it to get all counties pulling in one direction?
Bloody impossible, basically.
How do you do it then?
How do I do it? Put it this way, Vaughan. I've had a load of good people around me. When I took over at the ECB, I virtually recruited a total set of new executives. Those executives are dedicated. they're hard-working, they're passionate about the game, and they're the ones who have really helped me change the game because they want to make the game successful and sustainable for the future. So by having good people around me, we've been able to achieve all the things that we have achieved. And as I say, remember the votes, 41-0 and 38-3. So,
if given your ECB experience now, if you went back to Yorkshire and sat in on meetings now representing Yorkshire with the ECB, would you look at things differently now, having had your time at the ECB?
Yes, without a shadow of a doubt. Because when you are a county chairman, and I've been fortunate to come through the ranks, basically. If you look at it, and I still pinch myself, basically, because 15 years ago, I was still, I should have said, in 2015, go back 15 years, I was still a chairman of a league cricket club around York. To come through the county structure, being chairman of a county and now being chairman of ECB, it is two different things altogether. You get very insular when you're a county chairman because all you see is your county, your problems, your players, your financial situation, and you do not see the wider game because all you're interested in is to keep your members happy. And that's what a lot of people forget, that we have members in these county clubs because it's owned by the members. Mm-hmm. So your first priority is trying to keep everybody happy, keep the ship afloat, keep the playing strength up and do well in the competitions. So you become insular, Matt. But when you become ECB chairman, it's not just that one. It's 18 first-class counties, it's MCC, and it's all the county cricket boards. And the other thing which I have done in the last 5 years is, for the first time ever, the recreational game has been involved. We've invested in the recreational game with All-Stars and that kind of thing for the girls and boys. Women's cricket, we've invested in women's cricket over the last 5 years. Before I came on board, we had no proper league structure of women playing cricket. England was just starting to be a professional England women's team. So the investment we have put right across the game has been phenomenal. And therefore, you don't see that as a county chairman. You just see it as your county.
Colin, what's going to be next for you? Still going to be involved in the game?
We'll wait and see, Vaughnie. We'll see what happens. I'm reserving judgment at the present time and see what turns up and see what crops up, Vaughnie, to be honest.
So just the ICC position, which is obviously potentially going to be available. If you got the head job of the ICC, just going back to the handouts to the lesser countries or the smaller countries, would you be willing to kind of spread the riches of the game across all the countries rather than the Power Three?
It needs re-looking at because basically, and I've said this to all the international chairmen over the last 4 months, the ICC going forward is not about the big three. It's not about the big one. It is virtually about everybody who sits around that table. And what the ICC has got to do is to make sure that every country is sustainable going forward, but make sure that the money that each country is given is invested properly in cricket around their countries at grassroots level and everything, and is not frittered away. So from that point of view, yes, I've got a plan that I could present to the ICC members and say, this is what it could look like. And at the end of the day, I believe we could make that work by sitting down and talking openly to all countries.
Would you have the same problem at the ICC that you have at the ECB of self-interest? I mean, that's what it's saying.
It's bigger, Mark, because basically the problem you've got in international cricket is you've virtually got in some countries, you've got government involvement, you've got political situations where India are not playing Pakistan, etc. So you've got all these issues. You've got Zimbabwe with its political issues. So it's not just about cricket, it's about politics as well in the background.
Which makes it diplomatically even harder.
Maybe that's why it wouldn't suit me.
Well, Carl, can I just go? Carl, you mentioned that you have a plan that you would present to the ICC. Are you willing to share that plan with us?
Not at this point in time, Fordy.
Oh.
Any kind of snifters, just early ones, just to let us kind of know of what kind of your thoughts would be if you got that position at the ICC?
Not yet, mate. I'll do that over a bit. I'll do that over a beer with you.
Is there a timescale on that, Colin?
No, again, it's down to the ICC board, and the ICC board has to agree a process for the elections chairman, process. They still haven't agreed that. We've been talking about it now for virtually 10 weeks, and we still haven't agreed a process. That needs to come together. It needs to come together as quick as possibly we can do that. Because, again, as I said, there are some big issues that need resolving at ICC and world cricket, and the financial implications that surround COVID-19.
Carl, can I? You've got pretty much everything. You've got money. You've got the. Why would you still want to be involved in cricket? You mentioned dealing with counties and the issues, and it's a nightmare. Why cricket, and why do you want to go again if the ICC job becomes available?
That's a good question. The thing that I look back, Vaughan, when I was 5, I was brought up on a farm in the middle of nowhere in Yorkshire. And the first thing I remember doing is picking a bat up in my hand. We had our own cricket pitch on the farm in our own grass field, and playing with my brother and my dad, etc. And that's when I started playing cricket at the age of 5. I played my first league match when I was 13. I played at school like most people did. I went to grammar school, etc. And I've just loved the game ever since I've been involved with it. And maybe I'm a glutton for punishment, Vaughan, but I just want to see the game improve. I want to see the game better. I want to see it better financially structured. And I always said that if I was reasonably successful in life, I would always try and put something back into the game that I love. And that's what I've tried to do, both with my first league club, my last league club, Dunnington in Yorkshire. I've helped them to get to where they are. I helped Yorkshire to get to where they are, and hopefully I've helped England to get to where they are. And that's me. That's just the way I'm built, mate.
So, given your relationship with cricket and your love of cricket from such an early age, when the criticism has come your way during the chairmanship of the ECB, has that hurt?
Yeah, it has, Matt, to be honest, because, again, people have said things about me, not really knowing me. And I can say it openly. Vaughan knows me quite well. The one thing from my perspective, I'm not in it for what I get out of it. I'm not an ego person. You talk to people like Straussy, who's worked with me. And the one thing I've always done in business, and I see cricket as a business as well, is to get good people around me. And when I get good people around me, I let them do the job. And they're the ones who get paid for it. And they're the ones who have helped to make me reasonably successful, whether that's been in a commercial business or whether it's been in a cricket business. I did that at Yorkshire. When I went to Yorkshire were bankrupt, and Vaughan will bear witness to this. Yorkshire had gone, and everybody said to me, "You're an idiot. It'll never work. You'll never turn it round. It's impossible." You look at where Yorkshire now. I went there in 2002. 18 years afterwards, they own the ground. They've got a fantastic new development that's all finished the ground off. Yorkshire now is sustainable going forward. So from my perspective, I like a challenge, but at the end of the day, you've got to have good people around you to make it work.
Thank you very much for coming on, Colin. Appreciate your thoughts and wish you well going forward. Could have done without the eulogy to Yorkshire at the end because I'm from the other side of the Pennines, but there we are.
Because we're on Zoom and we can see. Colin, you've got a tie on your wall. What's that tie you've got on your wall?
Tie,
is that a Yorkshire tie I can see?
It's the Yorkshire Business Masters tie, Vaughan.
Well, there you go. I like looking on Zoom to see what you've got in the background.
I've got one or two things.
Need to get a red rose behind me or something. Colin, thank you very much.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, Colin.
Thanks a lot. Cheers. Bye.
It's been a battle at times, you would say, Michael, for Colin.
Yeah, but I know him well, so I'm probably a little bit biased. I know where his heart lies, and that's with the game. He makes decisions purely for the game. As he mentioned, he basically saved Yorkshire Cricket Club. There are many out there, and I read a lot of stuff about Colin, and it's not right. I read something the other day saying he's been a disastrous chairman. What a load of nonsense. What he's put in place is hopefully to future-proof the game. The TV deal was bigger than ever. As he said, he's been a part of an ECB organisation that have won the Women's World Cup, the Men's World Cup, got to a T20 World Cup final. This year, with the game being in these difficult times, they've put on cricket throughout the summer. TV figures are bigger than ever. So I think he can be proud. Look, I'm a friend of his, so I am biased, but I do think he gets looked at and probably spoken about in a way that I know that's not true. His heart is in cricket, and if he stays within the ICC and gets that position, I'll have every confidence that he'll move and shake a little bit around the world to make sure that money is spread across the whole world, and making sure that those countries that don't get the feed of the dosh these days will get some in the future.
And I'm looking forward to the 100.
Yes.
Can't wait.
Well, we've spoken a lot about the 100. Let's, and we will talk a lot more about the 100, obviously, going forward. Just on the structure of the county championship, I thought it was quite an interesting article this morning in the Times. And in difficult economic times, playing group games with opponents who are near you, relatively, obviously, because you're counties, makes sense. And then there was talk, once things get back to some kind of normality, you could do the 3 groups of 6 on seedings. There was lots that made sense about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think, county cricket has to look at the finances, and clearly everyone in the games is going to get hit somewhat. There's talk of 20-25% cuts next year, and a lot of those counties, you could argue, may have spent that money already for next year. So there's going to be some difficult times, and every penny that you can save. So it is that you can save on a few costs, hotels, just small things like that, which could add up to quite a lot over the course of a few years. I think Colin's right. I think the game really does need to look at itself, and I think it is the county. I think people out there probably don't realise that the ECB can only feed ideas, and then it is down to the counties to vote on them. The counties voted the 100 in eventually. They voted for it because they're getting a nice handout, they're getting a nice feed, they're getting, I think, 1.3 million on top of what they get already. And people forget that they are getting a lot of money for the competition. I guess that's the debate. Is it so much of a risk in these times that do they need to be spending that amount of money on a new product? But the ECB will own that product, and over the years they'll hope that by the time they get to the next round of TV deals, that product will be worth a lot more than Sky and the BBC bought for it this time, and in 4 or 5 years' time, whenever it comes back to tender onto the table, they'll get a bigger value. And I guess that'll be the proof in the pudding, chappers. When it's around, will it get a new audience? Will it get more attention? And in time, will it be worth more in terms of a TV deal?
Why do the counties find it so hard to come together?
I don't know.
No, I know why. I mean, if something's a good idea, surely it's a good idea, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I look. What's it like? If you're in a family of 18, you don't all get on, do you?
No,
even if you all think the right thing, you're going to have fallouts, and I think that's the case. You've got to look after your own backyard. He said that himself, that you do look after your own backyard. But I do know this, Colin Graves, he's got the goodness of the game at heart, and I think he's made some tough decisions, some hard ones, some one that has gone against the grain, and he's had criticism for it, and there'll be many saying rightfully so, but I know him well enough to know that he's only done it for the good of the game.
Just the other thing with the 3 groups of 6 as well, and I know promotion and relegation is a big thing in British sport, and is a foundation of so many different sports. It hasn't necessarily been a big thing in cricket, has it? For years and years and years, we had a 17-team county championship, then an 18-team county championship. So if you don't have the relegation, you can play more kids. There isn't a threat to what division you are in, and it's an age-old argument. And we have seen some of the so-called smaller counties have done well in this Bob Willis trophy so far.
Fundamentally, chappers, the 4-day game for me is about obviously local success and making sure that your county are successful, but also producing England players. You can hear Aggers, can't you? He's now singing. The ukulele, I think it's been replaced by the banjo.
It's absolutely horrific.
Henry, can you go and tell him to be quiet? It's revolting what we're hearing. So I think it's it's good for the game. I like the thought of it, but it is about producing players that can go and represent England, and if that is a system, as you mentioned, a lot of younger players. I'm loving reading the county scorecards because I'm reading down and I'm having to Google players' names when they're like 18, 19, getting opportunities because of the times that we're in, because the overseas players haven't been able to come over. And I think coaches have realised this situation. We'll speak to Dizzy Gillespie about it at Sussex. I think a lot of coaches have realised this situation and thrown kids in. Probably not as much on it this year. Their positions surely aren't going to be under threat in these times, and I think they're making the most of it by playing a few young kids, which is great to see.
Well, let's bring Jason in, shall we? Evening, Jason.
Good evening.
I am really sorry for the awful background music that you might be able to pick. The racket that's going on in the background.
It's stinking, isn't it?
It is. Let's start with that point about the opportunities you're able to give to young cricketers at the moment at Sussex, given the situation that we find ourselves in?
Yeah, most certainly. And look, I was listening to you guys talk before I came on air, and look, there's lots of good discussion. For our club specific.
I think Dizzy's gone. He's down under already, I think.
He's
off.
He's just at the moment we lost the background music as well. We lost him. The reason we got him on as well is he's going to take up a role with the South Australian Cricket Association, so he'll be leaving as Sussex head coach at the end of the year. We've got him back, Jason.
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't hear you guys, but you couldn't hear me. But look, it's been twofold for us at Sussex. We've been able to afford opportunities for players, but also, a lot of people are saying, this with the current climate, it's a great opportunity to give young guys a go. But if you look at Sussex, in 4-day cricket our last couple of years, we've been playing the same players and we haven't been performing. So we saw it as twofold, that here's an opportunity to give some guys who maybe haven't been given a chance before to show what they can do. And it just so happens that there are a couple of guys that probably haven't played a lot of first-class cricket. They're on the younger side, and they've got that opportunity. They bring a bit of enthusiasm, a bit of that, bit of fun and excitement to the squad. And I certainly, as a coach, and Ben Brown as captain, we've been very energised by being able to afford opportunities to some guys.
Does it take the pressure off then, as Michael said, from a coaching point of view, that you're not going for a promotion or a relegation? I know you can qualify for the end of season finals and so on and so forth, but there isn't maybe as much the fear of failure.
Look, I don't know about that. You'd have to speak to individual coaches about that. But I mean, I listen to you guys talk about conferences versus promotion relegation, and sort of I've always liked my whole time in county cricket has been promotion relegation, and obviously with the Bob Willis Trophy it's conferences, and it's a different way of doing it. And I must say I quite like it, and I think what it does as well, it gives every county an opportunity to win the county championship or the Bob Willis Trophy.
Yeah.
I think another thing, it stops those short-term decision-making that counties make. Either, that they're wanting to remain in Division 1, they get to the pointy end of the season and they start panicking and thinking, well, we need to sign someone to stay in Division 1, or a team's in Division 2 and they think, right, we're going to make a short-term decision here, we're going to push to get into Division 1. So I think having these three conferences can stop those short-term decisions, and you can continue with your medium to long-term plans as a county.
Dizzy, Vaughany here. Sorry about that, Jonathan Agnew. I think he's doing a bit of Sleepy Jean next door at the minute. Sorry for the singing.
Cheer up.
You've been around the county game for a long time now, and there's a lot of change, and there's 100 coming, would have been this year, it's going to be next year. You're a bright chap on the game. How would you, if you were the guru in charge of English cricket, how would you position the county game, and what would it look like?
Look, it's a good question, and there's lots of debate about it. For me, I must admit, I'm quite enjoying this three groups of six, and I think it ties in well. And there's a lot of talk that with now a fourth format of the game after the 50-over comp, the Blast, and the county championship with 100 ball, that it's going to squeeze in the season. It's going to squeeze a format out. But I think with the three groups of six play each team home and away, that's 10 games, maybe a semi and a final, 11 to 12 games. A lot of counties only play 10 games. It actually brings a bit of time back into the season for the 100, the 50-over comp, which I think the worry around the counties is that the 50-over comp is maybe a little bit marginalised with the 100 ball coming in. So I think it could potentially bring time back into the county season. So, look, I'm very open to it. This Bob Willis Trophy, I think the structure of it's run really well. The 4 weeks in a row we've had, you play Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, day off, prepare again for your next challenge, and I think it's working quite well. So I'd like to see moving forward a similar structure in county cricket.
Dizzy Tuffers here.
Hello, Tuffers.
Hello, mate. You've worked in Australian domestic cricket and sort of English cricket. How do they compare in your eyes, sort of looking back at them all?
Look, I think they all have their attributes. It is a bit like comparing apples and oranges, to be fair, because conditions are so different.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I think the county game gets a bit of a bad rap sometimes. I think the cricket that's played is outstanding. It's adjusting and adapting to conditions. Maybe different types and styles of players thrive in Australia. Different types of styles of players thrive in English conditions. But it comes down to the skill of players and adjusting and adapting. And that's what we want from our players, don't we? Certainly for me as a coach, I want a player who is a very adaptable player, not adapted to a certain condition. And I think that's why I think players playing in different environments around the world can only be good for those individual players, and which in turn trickles down to it goes into the competitions that they play in their home country, because the lessons they've learnt and they can share that knowledge, and it just helps improve cricket all round, in my opinion.
Dizzy, you go back to Australia. You've kept a close eye on the English game, and obviously these Test matches this summer. Will you be going back with a message to the Aussies that this England side are developing a side that could potentially scare them in about 16 to 18 months' time?
I'm sure I'll be asked a couple of questions. I'm good mates with JL. He'll be asking me for some intel. Look, I think this England side is very good. I think there's been some new faces in the last little while that have come in and have shown real signs of promise. And certainly from a batting point of view, Sibley, Burns, Crawley. I remember seeing Crawley when I spent 2 months at Kent back in 2017, and you could just tell this kid. I didn't expect him to just hit Test cricket quite as he's hit it, but you could see that he's a good little player, and in time, given opportunities at Kent, first of all, he was not only going to survive but thrive, and then obviously you see the England bowling. Certainly, I might be a little bit biased, but I love watching Jofra Archer come in and do his thing. It's exciting for English cricket to have an out-and-out fast bowler.
Yeah, Dizzy, can I ask you about, obviously you've worked with Jofra Archer. There's been all the debate over the last few weeks of Jofra Archer. What's his role? What's his best kind of bowling position? Is it to bowl 88, 90 miles all the time? Is he a skillful 85 miles an hour bowler? What kind of bowler do you see Jofra Archer being?
I think it's very simple. I think he's top of off, occasional very good bouncer, occasional very good Yorker. If he does that often enough, he is going to have a long and successful career for England. Make no bones about that. There are going to be times when all bowlers have it, where they are giving their all and the speed gun is saying 85, 86 miles an hour. And there are other days where they're giving their all and the speed gun's saying 92. So, look, I wouldn't look too much into that. Jofra is a very competitive young man. He loves playing for England. He's excited about it. He's energised by it. I think he's a fine bowler. I think there's too much noise about what type of bowler he is. He's a quality Test match bowler, and as you know, Vaughnie, the best bowlers own that spot on the pitch, the size of about a shoebox, and they hit that shoebox more often than other bowlers. Look at James Anderson. He's got 599 Test wickets by pitching the ball up and moving it off the straight at low to mid-80s mile an hour. It's not rocket science. Keep it simple and nail the basic skills.
Yeah, you just mentioned Jimmy Anderson there, Dizzy. As a former fast bowler, can you sort of put into words how tired you'd feel being on 599 Test wickets?
I just think it just shows the discipline of the man. I think it shows his desire, his genuine love for the game, how much he loves bowling, and I think it's a credit to him how well he looks after himself. Yeah. So look, I've got nothing but praise for Jimmy Anderson. The way he goes about his work. Maybe he needs to give a bit more love to lads if they manage to shell a chance off him. But look, he's been absolutely brilliant for England, and I look forward to as a fellow fast bowler. I look forward to seeing that moment where he can raise the ball for 600 Test wickets, because that is 599 Test wickets is one amazing achievement, but nice to round it off to 600, wouldn't it?
Yeah. We were talking about Zach Crawley. We were on TMS, and there was a nice little stat that he's the first guy who's done got a Test 100 and then went on to get a biggie, a 267. I think your name came up this.
Well, I mean, I'd be surprised if it didn't, Tuffers, to be perfectly honest. We were talking about one of the greatest knocks in the history of the game,
Can we move on now, please?
We can move on.
Sorry, I think, have you lost your signal there, does it? have England got enough in terms of the bowling to get 20 wickets in Oz with that Kookaburra, Diz?
Yeah, I firmly believe they do. I'm loving the work that Chris Wokes. I think Chris Wokes will bowl very well in Australia. I think obviously Jofra will. You got Broad, you've got Anderson. Will Broad and Anderson both travel to Australia? Who knows? But look, keep an eye on Ollie Robinson from Sussex. Yeah. He's just got his 250th first-class wicket today against Middlesex, and he's a tall lad, 6'4", 6'5". Hits the spot on the pitch, hits that top of off, hits the pitch hard, hits high on the bat, asks a lot of questions of batsmen's defensive technique, their management of off stump. He could be a real find for England if given the opportunity.
Just to go back to Jimmy, Jason, when you talk about, how well he looks after himself. His average has come down over the years. I think his average at the moment is as low as it's ever been in his career. He's still in the mid-80s. The only thing that stops him keeping going for a good amount of time is mentally, surely.
Yeah, look, I think the physical side of it will start to happen. Look, not yet, and absolutely, it's a testament to how well he's looked after himself. But look, it'll come down to his wants. What's his motivating factor? Is it winning Test series? Is it a number? Is it getting as many Test wickets personally as he can? Whatever his motivation is, that's fine. But if he wants to be still contributing strongly to Test wins and winning games of cricket for his country, look, there's always two trains of thought in my eyes. If you're good enough, you're young enough. If you're good enough, you're old enough. I'm sure Jimmy, it's purely up to him. If he's fit and firing and he's mentally up for it, then he'll keep going.
Diz, can I thank you? Not often I thank Australians, but do you ever get any stick in Australia for the influence you've had on English cricket? Because if you actually look back at Yorkshire, the influence you had on the Bairstows, the Roots, the Adil Rashids, Tim Bresnans, and now at Sussex you've got Ollie Robinson, you've got Jofra Archer, and many more. Do you ever go home and people look at you and go, "What have you done?"
No, not at all, mate. Everyone knows. Look, I'm a career cricket coach, and I love coaching, and I love working with players. And look, the times I've had in England, some of the best times of my life. I can honestly say that from playing for my country, playing county cricket, and I've had wonderful opportunities to coach in England, and I've loved absolutely every minute of it. Vaughnie, I'm going to miss it, mate. I can honestly tell you, I love the county game so much. I think it's underrated, it's undervalued a little bit. And I just think it's just fantastic, as you mentioned, breeding ground for players to learn their trade and push for higher honours. And
was this new role just impossible to turn down then, Jason?
Yeah, look, I'll be completely honest.
That Barossa Wine Valley was just nearby, was it?
Yeah, I live in the McLaren Vale region, Vaughnie, so it's a bit hard to turn down. But look, the opportunity to be at home. But help my state, my state, South Australia. I've gone through a bit of a tough trot in recent times, and probably haven't performed to the level they'd like. And to be able to think I can maybe contribute and help a little bit was a real carrot. But also, being at home 12 months of the year, I haven't had that in a long time. Probably since my playing days. And our kids are, our eldest two kids are just entered high school, and with our four young kids, probably it's about time I'm home a bit more to help Mrs. G. And, initially she's not overly happy because she just said to me, well, I've just got another kid to take care of. So, but look, it's time. I think the time's right. It wasn't an easy decision to leave Sussex because as I said, the last few weeks has been really energising for me as a coach, working with all our coaches and our players. We've got some really good synergy with our coaching staff, and we all work wonderfully well together. And I've got a wonderful working relationship with everyone at the club, and our two captains, Ben Brown, Luke Wright, have been wonderfully supportive, and it's just been a great time, and I've really enjoyed it. We've had some tough challenges, but I feel the club is moving in the right direction, and so it's going to be sad to leave, but I am excited by what the future holds.
With your new role in South Australia, would you look at overseas players for your 4-day stuff? I mean, you generally haven't taken them in the Big Bash in the T20s. Would you look at an English player coming over and playing in the 4-day stuff there?
Look, I wouldn't rule it out, Vaughnie. Absolutely. At the moment, I think with the current climate, probably not in the next year or two, but certainly I'd be open to it. I mean, gee whiz, counties have overseas players all the time, and I know Australian cricket, we've got a smaller pool and only 6 states, but look, I certainly wouldn't rule it out.
I hope we can still talk to you when you're back home. You've been such a good friend of this show, and whenever I get told that you're coming on, I always love talking to you. So I hope we can still do interviews with you somehow when you're on the other side of the world.
Oh no, look, absolutely. It's been,
good.
Thank you to you guys. I love catching up with you guys and having a chat, and I always love talking cricket. I'm a bit of a cricket snuff, so
you are.
I love talking about it and just engaging. So no, thank you guys. You've been absolutely brilliant. Thank you.
Wish you well for the rest of the season with Sussex, and wish you well back home. Thank you very much for coming on, Jason. Take care.
Really kind of you. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Jason Gillespie, who's heading to South Australia at the end of this season.
It's not
so we
often
go straight.
The Tuffers and Vaughan Chapters has a bit of musical background, is it? It's not often.
Is that what it is? Is that what it is? Is that what it is?
It's debatable whether this is musical background at the moment.
Exactly.
Really, I mean, there's background. Whether it's musical is another question altogether.
Correct.
Quickly, let's move on to, because we go straight from the Test into the T20s. England and Pakistan have 3 T20 internationals that start on Friday. Then Australia come over a week later. They'll cram it in, won't they, Phil?
Yeah, live on the Beeb. Can't wait for that. We're all going up to Old Trafford. Pakistan, full of exciting young talent. Just one of those sides that you can't take your eye off in T20 and 50 over cricket. And the same with England. Really good youngsters coming through. England are in a great position at the moment in all formats. But just remember that the last game of white ball game, last white ball game we did play, we got beat by Ireland. They knocked off 350. Unbelievable.
And I wonder how much that plays on their minds going into this, or is that forgotten about already?
Well, it's a bit forgotten about, but they'll like to get they want to get back out there and get winning. But I tell you something, that Australian side looks pretty useful as well.
It's a year and a bit till the next T20 World Cup, so it's important times for those younger players that potentially could do something special to make sure that when the likes of Butler, Archer and co come in for that Australian T20 series, they keep their place in the squad. So the likes of Banton, Lewis Gregory, Saqib Mahmood, you do well over the course of those 3 games against Pakistan. Make sure that you're in the squad for the Australian series.
Do you think it's important that they get to play all the 3 games against Pakistan to put down a marker? Because obviously there are more experienced players in this squad as well. Do you leave them out a little bit to give the youngsters the opportunity? Well,
I think with the amount of cricket they've missed, I think they'll all want to play. Jason Roy had a tough time of it against Ireland, so he's going to want 3 hits against Pakistan. Johnny Bairstow's going to want to play. Owen Morgan, the captain. I would think England will try and mix it about somewhat, but there'll be a core that will play all 3 games. I would think so. Pakistan will be dangerous. I've seen in the distance on the Colts ground here, Mohammad Amir, Wahab Riaz charging in. Particularly Mohammad Amir, who retired from Test match cricket far too soon for me. A wonderful left-arm bowler. And Pakistan could do with him in the Test arena just to give these younger quicks, Naseem Shah and Shaheen Afridi, a little bit of a rest.
It was really funny actually, because over the back here that they've got like a big oval, like a second pitch, like the nursery ground.
Cricket pitch, Phil,
cricket pitch. Yes. No, but outside, but outside. It's
an outside cricket pitch.
Yeah.
An outside. Wow.
It hasn't got a roof on.
No, it hasn't. And the lights, we're all complaining about the lights and all walking off and walking on, and they were over there smashing Wahab Riaz at about 90 miles an hour everywhere, and he was whizzing them past the nose as well. So, it's going to be one to look out for.
It'll be a
Bit of
great
Sweet
series.
Caroline next door now, chappers.
Yeah,
Got a headache.
you rarely hear that, do you? You rarely hear Sweet Caroline.
No.
But you're right. Pakistan will be a real test for them.
Yeah, great. And Azam as well, absolutely world class. So he's going to be a big factor in it as well.
Well, let's hope that Francis holds off tomorrow.
Not here yet.
And we get some cricket. Thank you to you both.
Cheers.
See you
Cheers,
soon.
chappers. See you, mate.
Please thank the ukulele player in the background.
I'm cutting his strings.
Oh, yeah, please do. Please do. If you missed any of Tuffers and Vaughan tonight, we had Colin Graves on, Jason Gillespie. You can listen again on the BBC Sounds app.